our mayor, Joaquin Jimenez.
So proud of you. You want that one?
Yes. Well, thank you for that for that introduction. My name is Joaquin Jimenez. I am Half Moon Bay city mayor. I'm still getting used to saying that. It took me a while, even when I became a council member. We had Zoom meetings, and I was not used to introducing myself in Zoom as a council member. I don't see Half Moon Bay. I got used to that. Now, as the mayor, there's some used to it.
You carry yourself like a mayor.
Oh yeah, I do. Well, thank you, thank you. Just for time, I need to see how much time we have on the presentation because I can talk all day. I can talk. Let's. We can be here all day, all night. Tomorrow morning, I'm still talking. There you go. I like that. So, it's been an honor. It's been an honor to represent Half Moon Bay. It's just something that I don't take lightly. And this is because of my family. Everything, especially with my parents. Everything, my parents, my father's very proud. He's a proud man. Both of my parents, farm workers. So there's my connection to the farm workers. That's where it comes from. There's no question about it, where my roots are. Half Moon Bay, farming town. And I know farming is something we need. And we're gonna need as we move on to the future. So who am I? Joaquin Jimenez, very traditional, was born in Mexico, came to the United States at the age of about 13. I'm the oldest of our 4 siblings. We lived in a house right next to the Lutheran church, Methodist church on Johnson Street. Both my parents, like I said, farm workers. My mom actually had to stop working, had an accident early when we moved into Half Moon Bay, and she couldn't go back to work. But I kind of worked out because she raised my little brother because he was a year old. He was about to be a year when we came to Half Moon Bay, but he was a year old when my mom had the accident. So that's who I am. Older brother, son of farm workers. I'm a parent. I have a son and a daughter. My son, both my kids went through the school district in Half Moon Bay, immersion program. My son's 28. He works in San Francisco. He's a maintenance engineer in the Chase building and a few other buildings around the Chase building. My daughter's a senior at Chico State. She wants to be a teacher. She's doing bilingual education with a minor in Spanish and Chicano studies. So that's her background. My son went to attended college or local colleges, but it was not his thing. He did really good in college. He didn't do that good in school. But he got to college and he liked it. He's a great writer. He can write. He's a good writer. But he lost interest, in writing. And so, you know what? I'm just gonna go to work. But he's a good brother. He's a good big brother to my daughter. Becoming the first city council member of Half Moon Bay, as an immigrant, it was a team effort. we had a mix of group of our campaign members, the team. We have Phil, who was the president, right here. He's joining us. We had a mix of members from the community. My first group that I met with, it was a Coastside Families Taking Action. They were the first group that were interested in learning about me, about who am I, what are my priorities, what are my goals, where's my focus. And it became very obvious, to them who I was. And what surprised me, when they, I believe, Phil or Stacy, they sent me an email about our conversation that we had here on Johnson Street. No, San Benito Street. It was in San Benito Street. And to my surprise, when I was reading that, the questions that were asked, my answers, my priorities, what I've done, I didn't recognize that person. I was like, who's this? You probably got this confused. You're probably talking about somebody else. Nah. It's not often, now I'm getting used to it. Even saying that I am the mayor, I'm getting used to that. But in the past, it was not often that you hear, that you see yourself in a position like that, where there's an interest about who you are, what are your goals, where you want to get to. And that's because a lot of different reasons. Coming here in the 87, it was not an easy transition from growing up in Mexico, in really small community, 2,000 population, pretty much being free spirit over there, and then coming to Half Moon Bay, and not knowing the community and getting pretty much, stuck in a house. We got here in August. I didn't go to the beach until February. And I'm, we were just down the street from the beach. Get on Kelly and straight down. It took me that long to go to the beach. My movement was from the house to the school, to Cunha. That was the whole movement, pretty much, on foot. Of course, in the car, we used to go to the city and visit family or San Jose or San Francisco, but that was about it. So, how long did it take me it took me that long to go to the beach. And it's funny, because yesterday, we're talking about, I was at an event about kids from over the hill. Same age level in elementary, middle school. They was recently, the first time visiting the ocean. So it's like, that reminded me, of how I was, the transition coming to Half Moon Bay. And it was not that easy. One of the things that made it better was having my younger brother, Felix, who's 2 years younger than I am. So we walked to school together. We came back from school. It was just a regular movement. It became difficult. That following year, because you had to stay in Cunha, and I went to the high school. But him very, very smart. When I was after my, I became so I was the 8th grade. He was a 6th grader. By the time I went to when I was moving into 10th grade, he was moved, a grade up. Because, that's how smart he is. So he made that, that leap, like moving faster. He was tested really good. So that's, who my parents raised. Right? So my brother Felix and I, I tell people, like, we are roughnecks. Right? We grew up pretty much, in Mexico. My parents were coming to the United States to work for us to have something in Mexico. There was a period in my life when I didn't see my dad for 2 years. So we were raised by my grandparents, and that's what made us, a lot of the character who we are. It comes from my grandfather, who was a very strong figure, hard worker, never really raised his voice, but we knew he meant business. By going to work early age, every summer, in Mexico, you start planting in June, right? Where we lived in Jalisco, so we had to go to work. Me being the oldest grandson, being in Mexico, his oldest grandson of the family lived in San Fernando Valley, but I was the oldest grandson in Mexico, so it was a lot of responsibility. I was from the time I was 8, so my brother was 6, then 9. So it was that element. Then on top of that, when we went to school, we had to move the cattle, because my grandparents had milking cows, but they didn't have a pasture. So every morning, him and my grandfather and one of my uncles would milk the cows. They would finish, go to work. My brother and I, before we went to school, we had to take the cattle, we had to move them, through a small town, into a pasture. And we had to make sure safe, and then on the after school, bring them back. From the age of 8. And so so that's who I am. So there's a lot of things related to that. And it comes to this. One of the things I like to do, one of my favorite things to do, I like to meditate. But my favorite thing to do is to reflect. Reflection. I'm always reflecting. I'm going to reflect about this presentation later tonight and tomorrow. About the things that I said, about our conversation. But it's played a big part of my life. Opportunity to become a better me. That's why I reflect. How can I be a better person than I was yesterday? That's, to me, reflection is. I love history. Want to talk history? Let's talk history. But, to me, looking into my past, into my yesterday, it's a lot. It means a lot. Because I learned from that. Just like we learn from history about our community or country and the world, it's the same thing. I implement the same strategy. I make mistakes. I made mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes. But it's like, don't make the mistakes over and over again. And it comes to reflection. Of course, I don't have a say on everything that happens in life. I only have what to say about how I'm going to respond to what happens in life. A positive thing or a lesson. In most recent, you think about being resilient. What does that mean? To me, it's an opportunity to be better, to learn. I call myself a sociologist by nature. I think that's when I made the decision to go after my sociology degree, and I started learning more about sociology. About what it is. This is who I am, just by nature, observant, observe the changes, see the need, do something about the need. It is not often that you hear me complain about things. People that know me very close, they don't hear me complain about barely anything. If I want to complain, I'm going to do something about it. I like to get my hands dirty. I like to cause trouble. The disruptor. Yay. She's not paying attention. She's on the phone. So no, that's. I mean, I like to create. I like the chaos. To make something out of it. To get things done, we have to be okay with that. Creating chaos, creating trouble, and doing something about it. So that's why, being resilient, about life, it's a big deal for me. I mean, everything's out on the papers. There's nothing I'm gonna say like, no, I didn't do that, right? I had a 15-year career with a juvenile probation, San Mateo County. It was unfortunate when I'm trying to protect my family, my son, 2 brothers, my nephew, 2 cousins, from the harassment from the sheriff's department. A year after Yanira gets killed in Moonridge, that I protested peacefully with a lot of high school students, a lot of members of the community. We marched downtown, and I lose my career of 15 years. That gave me the transition to come back to the community. I started working with Puente de la Costa Sur in Pescadero, close to the farmers. Most of my experience, I've been working with the high school age, students. But then I started working to advocate for the farm workers. Something that being a historian and a Chicano studies minor, I knew a lot about it. Some of the work that I had done when I was actually in Chico, then came back to Afon Bay, it was in relation to the community, with the farm worker community and the needs of the low-income community, low socioeconomic groups. Again, it was an opportunity for me to get closer where I was supposed to be. From Puente, came to Alas. Right after the Bay City closed their doors, October 2019. Close to 250 people becoming unemployed. People that have worked there for 20 years, some of them even longer than that. They didn't know nothing. They didn't know, they had nothing else. They didn't know where they're gonna go, where am I gonna go to work? There's no employment. So Alas hired me to find employment for these farm workers out of the nursery. Put my boots on, went knocking on doors. Knocking on doors, being downtown, or local restaurants. Made it all the way to the harbor. Introduced myself, this is who I am. I'm working with Dallas, trying to find employment for farm workers. I became unemployed. It was like a lot of work. Thinking about what are we gonna do to help these community members. One of my first long talks that I did at a city council meeting, it was before I became a city council member. I used to go to the city council meetings every so often, bring up a few issues going on in the community. And I remember one of the council members said, when we showed up with about 100 people from the nursery that just became unemployed. One of the council members said, "Look, that's not our problem." So I waited my turn to speak. I was like, okay, I'm listening. So I got to the microphone and said, "What do you mean it's not your problem? This is your city. You're representing them." At that time, the city had been talking about emergency preparedness. And I said, "This is a test. This is an emergency. How are you going to respond to the 100 people that are here that just lost their jobs?" The tune changed. Councilmember took a step back like, "Oh, yes." So no, so they knew we were there for business. There was a few events that happened here at the Cunha School. Career Day for adults, employment opportunity. Local employers stepped forward and said, "I can hire a few people." Very grateful with those people that stepped forward. You know, restaurants, hotels, golf links, the golf course, other nurseries. So we are a community of resiliency. We are resilient. Who knew we was going to set us up for the pandemic coming around the corner? It was coming up. So that's why I said, no, it is a test. That was in October 2019. March, we are here with the pandemic. A real emergency. Who was still working? Farm workers. Farm workers were still working. No protection, no information about COVID, no keeping a distance. So we started moving. Yes, feels good to have my two nephews, my two nieces. Feels good, isn't it? A lot of times we think about, why are we doing this? Why do we do this? Something I'm going to talk about in that next slide. But achievements: running for city council, first Mexican immigrant to the city of Half Moon Bay to run for city council, and Half Moon Bay made history by electing the first Mexican immigrant to city council. I'm right at the Ala's house. I'm also the first Mexican immigrant becoming a mayor for the city of Half Moon Bay. History in the making. Rancho San Benito. Some of you might heard about, the name going around, or some of you might know where the name comes from, if you know a little bit of the history of Half Moon Bay. So those are three things that I'm very proud of. And all those things represent change, opportunity, and knowing that tells a lot about the character of who Half Moon Bay is, or who the Coastside is. Rancho San Benito. It's an initiative to provide opportunity and education for farm workers to become farmers. It is a transition. The only way a farm worker can have upper mobility is becoming a farmer, becoming the owner of their own harvest. And maybe becoming owners of the land will be even better, but at least becoming owners of their harvest. or their hard work. It is something that we have looked around and, again, by observing what was happening in our community and making the real change. When we talk about the work that we have done, amplifying the voice for farm workers, because they do have a voice, we just have to amplify it. Providing resources and support, making sure they have health care, make sure they're getting fair pay. All that is good. But still, $20 an hour, you cannot make a living. Being in a farming community, if you've been here long enough, I've been here 37 years, and we have family in Watsonville. So driving Highway 1 and seeing how every decade it's less farming, why not give the opportunity to new farmers? You gave me an opportunity to run for city council. Why not giving the opportunity to farm workers to become farmers and having a better opportunity to be successful? Let me ask a question. Why do we do this? My nephews, my nieces, very proud of who I am. My uncle is a mayor. So that means they're growing up thinking that they can one day become the mayor of Half Moon Bay. They see the opportunity. They see the possibility. There's for me, I didn't have anybody to follow. Anybody in my family say, politics, business owner, education. I have uncles, relatives that are actually in Mexico. They have a career, teachers, but not in the United States. So I'm the first of my family to graduate high school and get a college degree, become a council member, becoming the mayor. But it's all thinking about, about the ones following behind me. So opportunity, Rancho San Benito, that's what it is. It's opportunity, so we do not lose our farming heritage in Half Moon Bay. We are the largest farming community of San Mateo County. We have farming community in Colma, South San Francisco, Daly City, Redwood City, East Palo Alto, Woodside, but very small. Probably another large group is in South City. They do a lot of nurseries between South City and Colma area, by the cemeteries. They have a pretty large group of farm workers, nursery workers. Very proud of those achievements. I love gears. I'm not a gearhead. I know how to work on cars, but I'm not a gearhead. All of us, we are gears. We move the person right next to us. We all connected, either really close or to a different gear. And for us to move as gears, we have to work together. We're all connected. Because what you do somehow affects what I do. What I do affects what she does. So that's why we are all gears. I mean, if you want to get into science, you'll find out that we're all connected. But right now, we are part of a larger gear that moves other larger gears, that they need more gears to move the larger gear. And that's how we get things done. So I'm always thinking about, gears. Who has the gear to move me? Who is my gear moving? To laugh, sometimes I say, instead of calling it a gear, instead of moving a gear, I call it light up a fire. Disrupt. Become disruptive. Create trouble. But everything we do, let me give you an example. In this room, I have 2 teachers from high school that were my teachers. Their gears move my gear for me to be here. I still remember conversations that we had when I was in high school. I remember Miss Evans, in the class. She used to put me as an example about my daily activity and my diet. What I ate from getting up in the morning, going to school, my activities in school, what I ate in school, what I have for dinner, my activity after school. I mean, that is a lot. That gear told my gear, like, this gear wants to move you because this gear cares about you. It is giving you the opportunity for your gear to move the other gears in the classroom. Mr. Wise, who was my math teacher, I remember, I was quiet in my space, and he would put up a problem up on the board, and we used to play games to get extra credit for previous to a test or a quiz. And different students would try, to get the answer, and they couldn't get it. Then Mr. was, Joaquin, what's the answer? I wasn't planning to raise my hand to give out the answer, but his gear moved me to speak up and say, I have the answer. So now if you're a teacher, you're moving a lot of gears in your classroom. As a teacher, I had the opportunity to be a teacher. You see your students that you need to get your gear to move their gear. Working with juvenile probation, I raised a lot of kids, 15 years, raising a lot of kids. The youngest kid that came to me, 13 years old, in a detention center for 9 months. Pretty much raised them. Saw a lot of that repeatedly. They had gears with us, but once they went outside in the detention center, the gears were not working for them because they will come back again. So when you have the influence to move other gears, use it because we're all connected. And those gears that you moved many years ago, don't forget. They will remember that you moved them. So that's why I love gears. If you know a little about me, I love community engagement. I'm all over the place. It's just the opportunity to engage, to listen, to learn, to implement. My priorities: housing. It's been a priority to the city of Half Bay way before I came to city council. It had been already 8 or 9 years. It was a top priority for city council to build housing. We're getting there. We are moving the right gears to get that done. It is unfortunate that it took a tragedy last year to move the gears a little bit faster. And we honor those farm workers that lost their lives. Public safety. Public safety is very important to me. One of the reasons I got involved with the juvenile probation, I personally like to get hands-on learning. Just like the youth, the children that I supervised for 15 years had the opportunity to learn from us, their supervisors, to keep them safe and educated and healthy and everything. I personally had also the learning from them. What do they need? How come they did what they did? Where do they come from? Where, as adults and educated people, where are we missing things? What are we missing? Let me tell you, we're missing a lot of things. A lot of things. That's why public safety, community engagement, we have to work with law enforcement. We have to know why they do what they do, and law enforcement need to know why we do what we do out on the street. And make sure the way they respond is proper. Because, I don't want anybody else to get killed by law enforcement. What we happened in Half Bay twice already. 2 shootings involving law enforcement. 2 women. Mental health. So we have to do something about it. The city of Half Bay is doing something about it. It has been doing something about it. But we have to make sure that we continue to engage with the community, with law enforcement. Farm workers. Again, engaging with the farm worker community. Many of them continue to think that that's all they deserve. For all the hard work that they do. Many of them say, Joaquin, as long as I have a roof over my head, I don't care how the room looks. I don't care how many people in the room. I go to work, lay down, go to sleep, wake up the next day and do the same thing. Now it's a bit different. When you continue to provide information about what's out there for the farm worker community, services, their rights, and give them the spotlight that they are essential workers. Just think about it. I said it before, like, I don't really eat food out of a can. I mean, we're spoiled in Half Moon Bay. We eat a lot of fresh fruit, vegetables, organic. Going to the inner city, going to a Tenderloin in San Francisco. So you can find something fresh and how often you're going to find it and how expensive it is. So we're spoiled. Farm workers are taking care of us. Are we taking care of them? Right? So last year, during the vigil, after the shooting, I made a comment. There's several people that were there, like, oh, yeah, the farm workers, let's pray for the farm workers. Let's pray for them. Let's like, I pray every day. Every morning I pray. When I was a kid, I used to pray every night because of my mom. Okay, before you go to sleep, you have to pray. We pray for specific, people in our family, to take care of, my grandparents, my brother, So pray. Every morning, I pray for specific people that move my gear. But in this case, when you pray for a farm worker, you have to, okay, I said, okay, it's good for the soul to pray. But you have to think that farm workers out there, a long day of work, they need to go home and also put their body to rest, their physical body to rest. You telling me that you care about the farm workers. I said, don't tell me, show me. How are you going to show me that you care about the farm worker community? What are you doing personally to improve the lives of the farm workers? What are you doing? Are you acknowledging them when you go to the store? When you walk by the field, when you're picking up your pumpkins? Do you know who the farm workers are? Can you pick them out of a lineup? So that's community engagement. One time I had a conversation with somebody, said, Joaquin, what can I do to be more involved with the Latino community? I said, very simple. I acknowledge the Latino community. But I don't speak Spanish. You need to speak the language to acknowledge someone. You can still say hi and smile, wave. Don't be a creep, but just don't make it creepy. But if you see somebody, you want to acknowledge them. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Please, thank you. Excuse me. Acknowledging somebody means a lot. One thing that we kept saying was during the pandemic, it pushed not only the Latino community out of the shadows, but also the farm workers out of the shadows. When we had the conversation, before my campaign, it was like, okay, what is it? Well, it's time. How did I know it was time? It was a time to run. How did I know that? Because of the engagement. The Half Moon Bay community saw a Latino person, a Latino organization, Alas, Latino woman, Belinda, We stepped up. The old blue truck that I drive around, I just love driving the truck. Whoop, whoop, whoop. There you go. So all of you saw a different group in the community taking leadership. That's what the whole coast got to see. We did the PPE, the protection, the mask, the parents from the ALAS program were making. I was collecting them, 50 at a time, and delivering them to the farms, one per person. Make sure you wash it. Use it, put it in the wash it, and use it again. The hand sanitizer, nonstop. The food distribution, picking up food from Coastside Hope, delivering to families that tested positive for COVID, or not working because they just became unemployed during the whole thing of COVID. We created a lot of things, and you got to see it. Even to this day, you see the food distribution line. March 23rd, 2020, we started that out of Belinda's house. I was driving around town and I get a call, hey, Trader Joe's out of South City, they have food they want to give you. I said, okay, I'll go pick it up. I show up with my truck and say, oh, it's a lot of food. So I called Belinda, hey Belinda, I got my truck full of food. Took a few pictures, sent it to her, like, what should we do? I mean, how are we going to go about distributing the food? And she said, okay, I know what I'm going to do. I want to call some families to come by my house and pick up some food. We loaded the truck, set up the boxes. About 30 plus families came around, picked up the food. The following Saturday, the same thing. And it was like, this is not going to work. Right? So we came to the city and said, we need a plan to do the food distribution. I sketched a little plan out of City Hall, in and out, Johnston, and coming out on Main. No, that's not going to work. High school's too far. Library closed because of COVID. Let's do it out in front of the library. It worked out perfect. Set everything up on the sidewalk, come out on Church Street, pick up your food, move out. Still going. And everything, all that came from engagement. Who would have known? Why 100 years? By the way, that's a picture of Rancho San Benito. I took the picture a few days ago, about 3 days ago. That's the property south of south of Seymour. That's the Wapecrest property, owned by Post. So that's what the fuel is. That's for Rancho San Benito to start working with our campesinos, with the farm workers to become farmers. Very ambitious, but it's doable because we have a really good group to get this done. Yay. I see Elised, I see Mike, who's been instrumental for this. Stacy. Man, it's a lot of work. But I tell you what, it's worth it. Why 100 years? I read something many years ago. Why 100 years? To change the life of a person, or the best time to change the life of a person, is 100 years before the person is born. 100 years before the person is born, that's when you have the best opportunity to change their lives. And always keep that in mind, 100 years. Because what I'm doing right now is going to influence the lives of my great-great-grandkids. If you think about your generations, let's say 4 generations in 100 years, the people that influence who you are right now, it was your great-great-grandparents. And what you're doing right now is going to influence your great-great-grandkids. And I always keep that in mind. So just not to cause any stress to me, but I'm not really thinking about me. I think about my kids and the opportunity that they have right now. But even more, I'm thinking about my kids' grandkids, my great-grandkids, my great-great-grandkids. What opportunity do I want for them? What kind of place do I want to live for them in 100 years? If you think about it, go 100 years back. How much that influence of 100 years ago we have right now? So that's why I say 100 years. I mean, I'm not going to wait for 100 years for farmers to become farmers. I'm waiting 3 years. But it's the influence that they're going to have on their kids, their grandkids, and their great-grandkids. Both my parents, their education, my father went to 6th grade, my mom went to 3rd grade. My father has beautiful writing at a 6th grade education level. I mean, since handwriting is beautiful. Not my mom. Sometimes we have to guess what she writes. But tell you what, though, she's quick with the numbers. She's very quick with the numbers. So it was their team effort to raise 3 college degrees and 1 business owner. From being farm workers. Not bad. My father he learned a couple words in English, very few. But he can talk to you in Portuguese, though. He speaks Portuguese. My dad speaks Portuguese because when he worked at the nursery, he worked with a lot of Portuguese. My mom, on the other hand, because she worked in the farm many years ago and then temporary here and there, but because, she couldn't go back to work after her accident, so she became a nanny. She became a house cleaner. So actually, she learned a lot of English from doing that. So guess who moves that household? Give you one guess. But that's why, 100 years. I always keep it in mind since I read that. I don't remember when I read it. I'd like to read things here and there, and that stuck with me 100 years to change a person's life before the person is born. It takes 100 years. For us, we would like to change the lives of farm workers next 5 to 10 years for them to become farmers so they can influence their kids. They can actually learn to run a business. So the strategy here is not about teaching them how to farm because they know how to farm. They are masters of the land. But it's about how to run a business. Give them that opportunity, the education, the training, the hands-on to run a business. And that's what is our mission in Rancho San Benito. Our vision means that in a decade, we're going to have a lot of small business owners. A lot of them. Continue to eat fresh. If you know about regenerative farming, it's proven, scientific proven, that it can reverse climate change the way you do farming. So the people that at one point were treated now better than an animal have the opportunity to save the world. Yes, and produce food at the same time. So that's 100 years. Good luck. Responsibility. I learned the game of chess at the age of 9. I was living with my grandparents. My parents were here in the United States. One of the teachers, he was a new teacher in the small town. He came to live with my grandparents, elementary teacher. And I remember one day he said, Joaquin, you know how to play chess? What's that? I know how to play marbles. I know a slingshot. I know how to throw a rock. And then he pulled out the board, like, this is what a chess board is. I was 9. So how do you do this? I was like, well, man. He said, have you ever seen a checkboard? I said, I mean, I've seen people play checkers. He says, pretty similar. But you have to, takes a little bit more out of you to play chess. He said, you have the responsibility to protect these pieces. And these pieces are the ones that are going to make you protect these pieces to win your game. For a whole year, gave me a few lessons here and there about, playing chess. The responsibility. I remember one of the conversations that I had with Phil, about what is my responsibility as being the first Latino immigrant, Mexican immigrant, to be elected. It's a lot of weight to carry, let me tell you. A lot of weight. I mean, you have no idea how much weight I'm carrying. But Phil said, Joaquin, you can carry that and even more. You have big shoulders. That's what Phil said to me, like, thanks a lot, Phil. But it's a responsibility. I remember when I first decided to run for city council, not 2020, but when I said, one day I'm going to run for city council. It was right after Yanira was killed, 2014. It's going to be 10 years already. That was when I decided that, one day I'm going to run. And I looked around, paid attention to the council members. Who were they? Not what they stood for, but who were they? Most of them either retired, close to retirement, ran their own business. None of them looked like me. I was, wow, What a chance. Going to city council meetings after the shooting, just trying to listen, I wasn't saying much. I had a lot of anger, I could not get to the microphone and say something because I knew I was going to say something inappropriate. So I said, you know what? I stayed back. And he was like, but one day I'm going to be there. And look at me, I'm the mayor. 10 years later from the shooting when I decided to run for city council. But it's the responsibility. Protecting the pieces, moving the pieces that they were gonna get me to where I'm right now. It's a long time. It's a very long time. But we have ways to go. The other day I was having a conversation with someone, and talking about she said, you've changed a lot. Me change? No, I have adjusted. So I've adjusted, That's very different. For example, I had to adjust the way I express myself. Can I still talk the way I used to talk 7 years ago? Of course. But I had to adjust my speech to be able to deliver my message. So it is a responsibility to make those adjustments. We all have responsibilities. We all do. You have the responsibility of your gear, moving the gear right next to you so you can get things done. For a better opportunity for our community. So a lot of times we don't think about how much responsibility we have, because it comes natural. For those of you who take care of others, it comes natural. For those of you who give an opportunity to others, it comes natural. You're not even thinking how much responsibility is that. It's a lot of responsibility. And we never think about it. It just comes natural. So that's why, I have to stay in shape because I'm carrying a lot. I have to walk, ride my bike, ride my horse, eat well, go to the gym. I want to thank each and every one of you for giving me the opportunity not to speak today, to give me the opportunity to represent you and to help me with some of the weight that I'm carrying. Because that's what we do. As a community, we do that. 2020, we saw that. Many of you, if not all of you, came forward. How can I help? What do you need? Do you need cloth? Do you need food? Do you need water? What do you need? What can I do? Many of you came to the ALA's office to drop off food, clothes, water. Many of you advocated for community. Many of you brought information, resources that were needed, ideas how to get things done. So a lot of that, is greatly appreciated. Many of you have adjusted to the new Half Moon Bay. So it keeps on going. So from that, Brian, thank you.
Well, Joaquin, we can't thank you enough for taking your time, your busy time, and with all your responsibility to come and share some of your life and goals and who you are a little more with us. And I think I'm asking all of you to join me in how proud I am, and I hope you are too, of this wonderful young man. So with that standing ovation, there is time for a few questions. I think you're willing to answer. Okay, so does anybody have a question for Joaquin?
Thank you. I'm RJ here, local in this community, and Joaquin, always a great pleasure to see you, be beside you, and in this journey. And I think you said on the last slide, our responsibility. There's a long arc of how we uplift our farm workers, and a lot has happened. And my question for you is, what's our marching orders now to help uplift the farm workers?
There's a lot of things that we can do, right? But going back to the model of Rancho San Benito, that's one thing that we can uplift our farm worker community, to give them the opportunity to be the new farmers. I've been looking at the model that we have. Very simple. 1 acre, 1 person. 1 person can manage 1 acre 35 to 40 hours a week, regular job, 10 months of the year, and can still make triple, maybe even quadruple the income they can make working for somebody else as a farm worker. Very simple model. If you go to YouTube, the new University of YouTube, and enter small farms or 1 acre farms across the United States, there's a lot of models going around. The closest one is south from us, Monterey County. Young man in his 30s, farms 1 acre, makes about $100,000 a year on 1 acre. You know the Hill Project? The Hill Project, yeah. How much land do they have? Not that much. Check in with them. Give you an idea. But go to YouTube. There's a lot of those small farms popping up across the United States. So to your question is, how do we uplift the farm workers? You give them an opportunity to become successful in a better life, becoming a farmer. That's the only upper mobility they will get. Give him that.
Anybody else?
I'm curious what you think about the immersion program. Do you see that as a bridge or helpful to making the two groups of people come together or not?
I do. I see it as a benefit. I was a teacher in the immersion program. Both my kids went through the immersion program. My son made it only to fifth grade in the immersion program. He didn't want to continue in Cunha. My daughter went all the way. And that's why she's with bilingual education with a minor in Spanish and Chicano studies, because she wants to come back and teach second grade at the immersion program. I see the benefit. They could be created a bridge, right, for two cultures to come together. I haven't been there recently, but I know a few things have changed. So I hear. Okay, but I'm not gonna say what things, because that's everybody makes their own opinion about the program. But if it is a benefit for anybody to learn two languages, to be immersed into not only the language, but also the culture. Part of my curriculum when I was teaching fifth grade, I was teaching Spanish using Mexican and South American history. Because you were not only being immersed into the language, but also into the culture, the traditions, the food, the music, So everything was completely immersed, the exchange, or the opportunity to learn who is in Mexico and who's South. Not only the language, but also the culture that goes along with it. You become bilingual, and you come with two cultures. What a treat. I think so too.
One more question? Anybody?
Hi, Joaquin. Thanks for that. Really interesting talk. So I know that you like to do things by collaboration. You like to work in a team. And you've been on the city council team for 2 years now. And I'm wondering if you think to all the things you've done in that team together, what's the one that makes you, or that made you most pleased with how it was going, most hopeful for the future, where you saw the city council working the way that you think it should?
There's been several things. To me, the city council members who are there, they are my mentors. See how they do things. Each and every one is different. We have priorities as a city council, but each individual in city council we have our own priorities that we really have passion about it. There goes one, power. That's Harvey. Right? So each one of us, has something to offer. So to me, they're mentors, because I get to learn from them. One thing that I'm, coming as a group, as a board, as a council, has been most recent talking about tenant protection, rent control, or housing, how fast it's moving. Making decisions. One thing, was our last meeting, Measure D, a change on that, adjustment, for our community. Decisions that when we're talking about the electrification, of our community, It was very tense. I want to get there, but I know we're not ready. My brother, who's the business owner, he's an electrician. So he was my advisor. Like, what do you think about this? Like, not going to happen. Can't do it. As much as you want to do it, as much as I believe in that, Half Moon Bay, PG&E, the grid is not ready to pass that. And it was clearly understood, and as we move on, we can see more and more that Half Moon Bay was not ready for that 3 years ago. 2 years ago. Because many other things are happening. The things that we have been, working on, everything like, housing, making adjustments to our development in Half Moon Bay, all those things has been a collaboration of, the team. So I'm very proud of that. Making decisions. At first, let me share with you, Stone Pine, we're doing 48 units in Stone Pine. Before that, we actually were talking about doing 120 units. That would have taken us 5 years to get them done. And a lot of other struggles. But because, everybody in the city council, we saw the need for housing. We see the need of housing. The city of Half Moon Bay has influenced the county to invest, what the old Bay City. And again, Mike being a big, part of it. Other council members have been part of it. Knowing our community, having mentors, the people that care about what's happening right now and about the future. We think about working together, the collaboration, making those adjustments in our community to offer something better for the rest of the community that is in need. So there's been several things. And all of that, it took a lot of effort, making decisions, making the right decisions. Not only from council members, but from community members and from our city staff. Because let me tell you, our city staff, they care. Our new city manager, he's young. His first, position as a city manager. But what he cares about the community. He grew up in this community. And that's something we needed. So it's been a lot of different things. But I know that's why I'm very happy.
Well, once again, thank you for the great questions. I'm sure Joaquin will hang around and ask him more. If I can trouble you again to pick up your chair if you're able and help others who aren't. Thank you so much for coming.